Oh man, it's the space weather. The sun at 193 angstroms. Got some little diffuse coronal holes rotating out of the Earth-facing region. How about a little 304 angstroms? Have a heaping helping of 171 angstroms. By the way, no sunspots. And there is the magnetic field environment. And how about the real-time solar wind? We got some negative BZ a couple hours ago there. No coronal hole magnetic connections going on. Solar wind speed is around, it's like about 8 protons per cubic centimeter. And throughout the day, solar wind speed has dropped down from about 375 to about 340. And we've had a recent uptick, so we'll be watching that as there is some coronal hole wind streams floating around. Whether they'll hit Earth or not is anybody's guess, and that's how you'll see it. And spaceweathernews.com. Can see nothing going on with the X-ray flux. Magnetometer has reached its bottom and is ramping back up. KP index has dropped down to 2. Here's your Cygnets forecast. That's still through the 16th. There's your electron flux. We see a tiny dip like yesterday associated with the coronal hole wind stream. Keeping an eye on that to see if that moves. No charging hazards. And the F2 layer is looking pretty normal. Aurora forecasts are weak. Moving at quakes.globalincidentmap.com. Looking at the last 10 hours. China 4.0, Italy a 4.5. 4.9 in Indonesia. British Virgin Islands getting some mid-level 3s. 4.7 in Indonesia at depth. Greece gets a 4.5. Owen fracture zone region. Those of you who aren't aware where that is. Located off the coast of Yemen. Also a 4.9 in Papua New Guinea. 4.5 in Nicaragua. 5.3 in Nicaragua. And a 4.9 in Venezuela. 4.7 in New Caledonia. 4.5 in Venezuela. Moving on. Head to volcano discovery. Volcanoes today so far. Karaminski. Karaminski with a 15,000 foot ash plume reported. Shivaluch, 16,000 foot ash plume. Bezimiani. 12,000 foot ash plume there. Dukono with a 7,000 foot ash plume. Sabancaya intermittent puffs. Villarrica in central Chile, no eruption. And no idea why it's on the list. Planchon Peteroa, unable to detect. That one might be erupting. And let's look at the Gong 2 top view ecliptic plane field plot. Now we see we're approaching this rift here. And when that happens, there's going to be a crossing of the current sheet, the heliospheric current sheet that is. And the Earth's magnetic connection to the sun is going to jump across this line, producing another spike in the magnetometer and some other unrest, geomagnetically speaking. By the way, that won't happen for a couple days yet. We will be watching it, and keep in mind these fields change regularly and with zero warning. Nothing too extravagant going on with magnetic perturbations right now. But let's let it play through anyway. We do see some magnetic reach into the Pacific and into the southern Indian Ocean. Couple decent sized pulses there toward the end. Moving on to geospace magnetosphere movies, here's the velocity. Keep in mind, folks, the darker red is low velocity, the blue shift is high velocity. Thanks for coloring it correctly, University of Michigan. And here's the density. It looks like we've got some low density waves coming in again, as we have the last 2 days around this time. Remember, high density is navy blue, low density is white. There's some low density waves coming in, probably associated with those ground level perturbations we saw. And it looks like the density has dropped down too, just in the past few minutes. We'll let that one play through as well. By the way, we will leave links to every site that we visit, as we do every day. This way you can monitor this stuff yourself. I thought I saw an anomaly there. Let's bring it through to the middle. No, not really. There was a small pulse on both sides there. Should be able to see that or not. Looking pretty weak, but not as weak as yesterday. Moving on. Let's look at a phys.org article. Got an interesting solar system here, which features binary stars and apparently some planets. Now, what makes this system interesting is that the planets are rotating along with the disk of dust and gas, like most solar systems, on this plane. The binary star system is orbiting at a 90-degree perpendicular angle to that on this plane, which would make for a very odd environment in that solar system. Now, Electric Universe people may be less baffled by this than standard astronomers, many of whom believe that solar systems form through a process of gravitational accretion. But anyway, it's an interesting article about this odd system. We call that a what do you call it? A polar orbit. And yeah, have a read. Although they're not going to tell you too much about the physics there, because they don't understand the physics yet. Another phys.org article, team discovers new way supermassive black holes are, quote, fed, which is not really true. What they've discovered is types of light emissions caused by ultra-fast gas, and they don't really understand how it works. They just measured some different UV light spectra coming out of the toroidal disk. And at the bottom of that, you can link to this article where it was originally published in Nature Astronomy. Anyway, we'll leave links to the original phys.org article, and would just like to say that black holes aren't science. Check out a newswire.net article here. Repetitive radio signal from deep space reached Earth. I know a lot of channels have covered this, saying that it's a pulsar. I haven't examined the signal myself, so there's another article for you if you feel like reading about radio signals from distant galaxies, currently attributed to being a pulsar. Next, let's look at AccuWeather's National Doppler Radar. Looks like things are calming down except on the west coast, where the whole southwest is getting precipitation. Here's your NASA GOES water vapor map, so you can see the intricacies of our atmosphere. You notice there's some dry mass of air causing a little bit of compression down here, but not too much activity from it. You've also got a convergence zone coming up this way. The driest air splitting this moist air in two and causing the precipitation in these regions. Well, I really marked up that map, didn't I? And let's zoom out a little bit farther, as in all the way. A lot of activity going on in South America. Check it out. Major convergence going on down there. Just like one big ion fountain. Probably thanks to the South Atlantic anomaly. Check out that rotating low down there. Remember, lows in the southern hemisphere rotate clockwise. Man, that is turbulence. Anyway, and let's zoom out even further to look at the 250 millibar wind on tropical tidbits. Check out the jet stream flow. This is through January 31st, by the way. Let's speed that up. This is the GFS model, 250 millibar wind, giving you an idea what the jet stream's doing. One thing we see definitely is this persistent feature going across the Pacific. We're also seeing, through every rotation, we're seeing a split in this region and a reconvergence in this region. We also see double and triple jet streams all over the planet. Finally, how about if I'm able to talk? That would be great. How about a 94 angstroms view of the local yellow dwarf? Hey, thanks for tuning in. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun. Just don't drive. Seriously, don't drive.